it got me thinking that we are 6 years old, and what now, and it got me thinking about the fact that we are located in Johannesburg, and it got me thinking of the fact that God doesn't do things by accident. We're here in this great city of Joburg for a reason. I mean, this morning, whilst I was in the toilet, I was quickly checking out some YouTube videos. I generally read, but I thought, let me just take a break from reading. And I happened to come across a short clip on the I think it's called the Truth channel or something. I think Rob Hershoff is on that often, and Helen Ziller as well. And so they were interviewing Helen Ziller about Johannesburg. If you were the mayor of Joburg, what are you going to do? And she was just telling us about some of the research that she's done in terms of visiting a lot of the communities in Joburg. And I realized, sure, there's a lot of work to be done in this city. In order for this city to be transformed, there's a lot of work to be done. And so the government has their role to play in terms of infrastructure, job creation, and all that. But I feel like the church has its role to play. And we can no longer as a people be incestuous and think that we exist only for ourselves. Only for ourselves. I mean, you know the word Christianity, but I think there's another word that is directly opposed to Christianity, and that's the word churchianity, right? I mean, I don't even know if you know that word exists, but it does exist. I even Googled it, and basically churchianity basically means your focus, your attention all goes towards rules, rituals, regulations, what your gatherings look like. And it's so the opposite of Christianity, which is following Christ and becoming like Him, right? And becoming salt and light in the world and living for the world, right? Not for ourselves. And so it got me thinking, probably that's part of the reason why Christianity doesn't really have a good rap in the world, because it's become churchianity. Right? So I often wonder, when the outside world looks at the church, what do they think? What is this young man who's just come into the world, who's a couple of years old, how is he experiencing the church? Often the best way to get someone to tell you the truth about who you are is to get someone from the outside to look in and say, this is what I see. And so Mahatma Gandhi, who was famous in India and became famous around the world, and who started the movement in India, the non-violent movement that eventually got the British out of India. And he made a fascinating observation about Christians and Christianity, and this is what he said. He said, I like your Christ, but I do not like your Christians, because your Christians are so unlike your Christ. And I thought about this, and I thought, oh my goodness, I wonder how many people out there think like him. I mean, he's dead and gone, a long time ago. But I wonder how many people look at us and go, man, I would come to your Christ, I would come to your Jesus if somehow the evidence was in you. And I think Darryl was kind of alluding to that when you mentioned that just now, because I feel like, man, Jesus' heart weeps for the city of Joburg. Because then he sees the devastation of it, and he's like, I've got all my people here, but are they really making a difference? Are individuals being changed and transformed one family at a time? And I feel like God is calling the church towards this mega shift in terms of how we see our city, our beloved city. I love Joburg. I mean, there are far prettier places in South Africa than Joburg, right? I mean, Cape Town, oh, come on, who can beat Cape Town, One of the top tourist destinations in the world. KZN has its sites, but somehow I'm always drawn to Joburg. And when you ask where you want to plant, I said, well, I feel like it's Joburg, because Joburg is like the heartbeat of the country. Joburg is the economic hub of the country. If you want to reach a lot of Africans from other nations, they come to Joburg. We've got Windsor East and Windsor West right up the road here. It's full of Africans from other African nations, So I feel like God is saying to us on our 6th birthday, you have shown love amongst yourselves. Now I want you to show love to the rest of the world. Because you've experienced what it has meant to truly love one another unconditionally. Now it's time to open up your hearts to people out there who do not know the love of Jesus. Because I believe that's what the world needs. The world doesn't need more doctrine and more theology. The world doesn't need more any of that stuff. The world needs Christians who love people the way they've been loved by Jesus. And I think that's the mandate for our church. Our church has always been about love, but I think it's only in the last couple of years have we been truly experiencing that deeply and profoundly in all of us, starting from the leadership down to every single part of, every single member of Pulse. So, what now? Why have we called this series JOYBURG? Because ultimately, it should be about joy. I mean, my personal life mission statement is to inspire people to enjoy life. And why? It comes from John 10:10, right? Where Jesus says, I have come to give you life and life abundantly. Another translation says, I have come so you may have a rich, satisfying life. Another translation says, I have come that you may have life and enjoy it. Jesus came for many things, but he said that's one of the main things I came for. And so we want to bring joy to our city, at least parts of our city, or at least some families in our city, by what we do and how we serve them. So traditionally in our church, in February, we do 3 weeks of prayer and fasting, right? So we encourage people in our church to fast, depending on the type of fast you want to do. You know, we're going to send out a PDF later on the group in terms of the various options you can choose, in terms of the kind of fast you should do. But today, I want to just maybe focus our attention on why we're doing this, because I think often we've assumed that fasting is one thing because you want to get something out of it, right? But that's so not God's heart for fasting, because He speaks to His people, His old covenant people, the Israelites, through Isaiah and Isaiah 58, right? And this is what He says. He says to them, Isaiah 58 from verse 1, He says, shout, a full-throated shout, hold nothing back, a trumpet blast shout, tell my people what's wrong with their lives, face my family Jacob with their sins. They're busy, busy, busy at worship, and they love studying all about me. To all appearances, they're a nation of right living people, law-abiding, God-honoring. They ask me, what's the right thing to do? And they love having me on their side. But they also complain, why do we fast and you don't look our way? Why do we humble ourselves and you don't even notice? You see, that's churchianity. That's having this religious appearance, attending church, listening to sermons, doing all of these things, but yet not carrying the heart of God for people. And for so long in my life, I lived like that. I mean, you can ask Daryl and some of the guys. I used to religiously fast every 2 months. It was a bi-monthly fast for 3 weeks, giving up stuff so that I can get closer to God somehow. You know, I used to have communion every day. Every day, I would make sure I would wake up, you know, pour my little grape juice in my little cup, break off a piece of mud sauce. I had to get the proper thing, right? I couldn't just break off, bread from the fridge. It had to be mud sauce, the authentic thing, right? And then take my little thing, communion elements, go to my office, and then have communion. I used to do that every day, and now I don't do it anymore. And you're like, what? Aren't you a Christian anymore? No, here's the point. Like, my heart was wrong. It's like I used to do this just like these guys over here to try and get stuff from God. Even though I didn't know it at the time, it was like secretly I was trying to earn God's favor. And there's a difference, friends. There's a difference between acting righteously. It's not there, I think. Is it? Yeah. It's not there. Okay. There's a difference between acting righteously to get from God, right, versus living righteously to give to others. There's a big difference. And I think even as you fast, even as you do all these religious things, like it's almost as if we're trying to get from God, and God's saying, man, I've given you everything already for life and godliness, right? Which is already what His word says. And God is that kind of a God. He's a generous God. He's always pouring out His love towards us. His grace never stops. It's like, and so when we do something like this, it's not a case of, well, God, I'm doing this because I want to get more from you. God is saying, no, you need to take the focus off of you now, and you should be fasting because I want to highlight in you what I want you to do for others around you. That's the whole point. It's not forgetting, it's forgiving. It's giving to others. And then it carries on from verse 3b. It says, Well, here's why. God says, this is what you do. Well, here's why. Let me tell you why. The bottom line on your fast days is profit. You drive your employees much too hard. You fast, but at the same time you bicker and fight. You fast, but you swing a mean fist. The kind of fasting you do won't get your prayers off the ground. Do you think this is the kind of fast day I'm after? A day to show off humility, to put on a pious long face, and parade around solemnly in black? Do you call that fasting? A fasting that I, God, would like? Sure. He's like really giving it to them, you know. And that's what I've been realizing, that even in the past when I used to do these ritualistic things, and in the fast, it was almost like it was so focused on me and what I can get out of this. You know, and I bet you when Jesus, and I don't know, so don't quote me on this, but when Jesus was fasting for 40 days in the desert, like I wonder if the big part of it was to get himself ready to serve others. Right? I'm sure he was downloading some stuff from God as well, which is great. But his heart ought to be set for mission, because now I've got a window of 3.5 years and I've got to maximize it. So I need to spend this time just consecrating myself and getting from my Father what I need to fulfill this mission. And I thought, oh my goodness, like we've got fasting wrong. Like we've made it about us. And God's saying, no, I need to change your mind on that. You know, the Archbishop of Canterbury, about 100 plus years ago, this is his name, he has a quote, I have it up there, I don't know if it's up there, yeah. He says, the church is the only organization that exists for the benefit of non-members. And now, I know that some people don't like this, because some Christians will think, no, we exist for ourselves. You know, we must beautify ourselves, we must make ourselves holy, get ready for the coming of the King. But what better way to get ready for the coming of the King than to get people around you ready for the coming of the King? Right? Like we've become so incestuous, so inward focused. And I love what this guy says, because even though he uses the word organization, he's trying to get the point across that you exist not just for yourselves, but you exist for the world. Because God's plan of changing the world, redeeming the world, restoring the world, has always been through the church. It's not changed in the last 2,000 years. You know, like someone said, plan A, that's it, through the church. It doesn't have a plan B. And part of the reason why current church organizations have had to be birthed is because the church is not doing its job. That's the hard truth. You know, we know an organization that part of what it does is to help children, to connect children without parents to homes, to safe homes, right? And their mandate is like, yeah, I mean, we want the church to do this, but the church is not really doing this, so we're the ones doing it, so we're going to try to help the church do this better, you know? And it's like, wow, maybe we've missed the boat. Maybe we've missed the boat about all of this and what it means to truly follow Jesus. And as I was looking around me and just enjoying creation and just thinking about how all of creation, right, and all of it, I mean, not just us human beings, that everything out there, the trees, the grass, the rivers, the air, all of creation exists to serve the other parts of creation, if you think about it. None of it exists for themselves. The tree is there not just for itself, because the tree produces air, right? Oxygen and carbon dioxide. Without that, we would die, right? The sun doesn't just exist for itself. The sun exists to give us light. Every part of creation, the way God has existed, is that it exists for the benefit of every other part of creation, except for us human beings. For some reason, we're like, no. I exist for myself. And that is why we're so sad. It's true. That's why we're so unhappy, because we just keep on working so hard, keep on accumulating, keep on building a life around myself and my kingdom. And that is why we're so sad. You know, just from my personal experience, from my short 45 years, I've noticed that the happiest people in the world are those who are always giving, who are always loving, who are always serving, who are living outside of themselves. That's just a general observation I've made, you know? Like Daryl is giving a high five to Somberlin, because she's that. As soon as she joined Paul, she was like exuding with energy. And what can I do? What can I do? You know, and sometimes we were afraid we would take advantage of her because they're like, we have something to do, she's awesome, Celine, you know, but she's like that, and she's also one of the happiest people in this church. Because she's always giving of herself, you know. That's how God has made us. That's why He is a happy God. That's why He's a happy God, because He's always from Himself, always giving out, always loving. There's always good stuff flowing from Him. And so, as we come to the end of that passage, verses 6 to 9, this is what God clarifies to them. He says, this is the kind of fast I'm after. To break the chains of injustice, to get rid of exploitation in the workplace, to free the oppressed, to cancel debts. What I'm interested in is seeing you do. Seeing you do is this: sharing your food with the hungry, inviting the homeless poor into your homes, putting clothes on the shivering ill-clad, being available to your own families. Let's note that. Being available to your own families. And then God says, do this, and the lights will turn on. Maybe that's how we solve load shedding, right? Do this, and the lights will turn on. And your lives will turn around at once. Your righteousness will pave your way. The God of glory will secure your passage. Then when you pray, God will answer. You will call out for help, and I'll say, here I am. Wow. Just think about that for a moment. Maybe sometimes God doesn't answer our prayers because our prayers are only about us. Only about me. I mean, He's so clear in that text and what He just said, right? Maybe if you do this, then I will hear your prayers, then I will come, then I will say, here I am. That changes the way we should be fasting and praying. You see, ultimately, Christianity has become about two extremes, in my humble observation. It's either about right belief, right? You must believe, and you must believe these things, but now the lists become longer, longer, and longer. Over the decades and the centuries, the lists become longer, and so you have to ascribe to all of these things. And I'm sorry to tell you, that's how we started Paul's as well. If you look at our statement of faith, it's like, oh my goodness, it takes 5 days just to read everything, you know? So it's become about right belief, and you know those kind of churches. It has to be all that. You have to believe like we believe, otherwise you're not a Christian. And then you've got the other extreme where it's about right behavior, right? So you've got to act a certain way in order to be accepted. You've got to act in a certain way in order to be deemed as a Christian. Man, if you don't look like that, if you don't dress like that, if you don't talk like that, you're not one of us. And we just see that all over social media. So it's either become about right belief and right behavior. And I think God wants us back to what is important, what is the root of all first, and it's about being. It's about who we are. Because from that will flow the right belief, from that will flow the right behavior. And so I want to end today's message by asking that question, who are you really? Not your name. You know, not, hey, I know who I am, I'm Reverend Paul Siaki, you know, the Reverend Doctor in the house. And who are you really? I don't know if we can spew out answers, I'm a child of God, I'm a son of God, I'm a daughter of God, but have you found out who you are and who God made you to be? That's one of the values of our churches, is every human being has dignity and value and worth. And they are unique, and they have their own special place, their own story in this world. You see, when you get to know your Creator, when you get to know the one who's made you, He activates that in you. You know, I think often we just keep fighting that our whole lives. Like we want to be something else, you know. And we can talk about various other reasons as to why we've arrived at that point. But often it takes us decades. That's why we even call it the midlife crisis. It's like in your 40s you start re-examining your life, you know, and we never find it. But I think God is saying, who are you really? Because if you know who you are, that you are my kids, that you have received endless love, endless grace, then you will know what you must be in the world. Then you will know what you must be in the city. And so it's up to you to choose the kind of fast that you want to do. I'm not going to prescribe what it is. I know that for our family, I mean, Kirsty loves her cup of coffee in the morning, but it's not just like this tiny old thing. It's this giant mug of coffee. And it seems like that's her juice, that's her petrol, because without that, she can't get going. So she's like, I'm forgoing that. I'm forgoing that. The Reverend says, don't be so extreme, man. Yeah, so, and for me, I'm like, I love my caffeine as well, so I'm forgoing that. I'm forgoing all the sweet stuff, like chocolates and sweets and cakes and desserts, all kinds of stuff. But it must mean something for you, right? And so the kind of fast that you two should mean something to you. It should mean that, hey, I'm letting go of this because I'm serious about hearing from God, because it's going to just change my radar in terms of what I'm positioned towards. And hopefully I can get the signal from God, and hopefully I can hear from Him in terms of what His call is for me. Not like, Lord, I need you to fix my husband or wife, Not, Lord, I need more money, or Lord, I need another job, or whatever. But Lord, like, what do you want from me? I think that's what He's saying to His people. They're like, what do you want from me? Ask that question, and He'll be so pleased to answer that. I mean, I can promise you, He'll be so pleased to answer that question, because I can imagine saying, yes, finally, someone who wants to live out their God-given purpose. Someone who wants to live out why they are here. And I believe it's not just us, I just get that sense like God is stirring up His church somehow. Like He's wanting another awakening, because, we become stale in our witness. We become stale in who we're about. So it's time to really take the love of God out into the world. But my hope, my desire, my prayer for you is that you'll spend the next 3 weeks from this afternoon, from tomorrow till February 22nd, I think, as we break the fast, to really ask God, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? My radar, my antenna is up. I'm letting go of these things that I like. I'm letting go of these things that I enjoy. I'm letting go of these things that I feel like gets me by, because I want to just position my heart so that I hear from you. It's going to be a big year.
Amen.
Yeah. But only for those who are ready. It's only for those who are ready, man. It's only for those who are ready. I mean, I'm not the sport of tennis is not like number one for me. It's like number 4 or 5, on that list of sports that I enjoy. But I'm just so inspired by someone like Novak Djokovic, he's almost in his 40s, right? How old is he? 38. And my goodness, now he's in the final of the US Open. In fact, they're currently playing now. I don't know what the score is. Please don't check on your phones, right? Jason. But the thing is, this guy, he should be dead and gone by now. He should have retired. He should have hung up his rackets. But he's just pressing on, and he's showing these young guys how to do it. And whether he wins the final today or not, the point is, he's not giving up, because he's still got so much left in him. And I feel like that's the church, I mean, there's so much talk about the end times, and Christ will be coming, because have you noticed, we could be at the brink of World War III and stuff, and I'm like, this wrong focus, guys. How much of our energy is consumed by these things? Man, if Christ comes tomorrow, great, we will celebrate together. But if He doesn't come in my or your lifetime, great. Then I know that we would have given it our all. And by the way, Darryl and I keep talking about this. This is just training ground. This is just phase 1. Because guess what? When heaven and earth come together, we're still going to be here, right? And how faithful you've been in this phase 1 will be what you get to do in the next phase. So it's a training ground. Jesus is not just a ticket to heaven, friends. He's just so much more than that. He is life. He is life. And so we who've begun to experience that life in this church community, our desire, our prayers and eldership is now, let us open up ourselves and ask God individually first, and then collectively, how can we love our city? Because this month we're doing a series called JOYBURG, and then next month, in the month of March, we're going to be out there in our communities. And what we're trusting and hoping that during our fast time that we will hear from God what He wants for us. And in March we're going to go out into the communities, which then leads up to Easter, right? In the beginning of April. Man, like I can just sense God just saying, cheering His kids on, go for it. Like, no, you guys can do it. Like, you have what you need, just go for it. I'm backing you 100%. And that's the sense that I get for our church as well. I mean, as a church planter, if you've planted a church, I mean, I look at Paul. Paul has planted how many churches? Three churches. I can bet you that in all of those 3 churches, you've never ever wanted to quit. Right? You've always been, no, I don't want to quit. This is my calling. I mean, if a church planter doesn't ask that question, is this still for me, then you're doing it wrong, right? Because there are many days you want to quit. But then I think there are even more days where you're like, wow, look at what God is doing. I need to press on, And that's a sense that I get. Like, phase 1 for this church is coming to an end. Now it's time for phase 2. And I don't know if you're that kind of person paying attention to numbers or not, but biblically the number 6 means it's a number of man, right? So the number 7 is the number of completion, the number of perfection, and that's the year that we're entering in as a church. We're entering year number 7. So let's just watch this space, and let's just pray and fast over the next few days, the next few weeks, and listen to what God says. And then when we come together on February 22nd, let's hear from one another. What has God been saying to you? And I can bet your bottom dollar, or your bottom rand, I can bet your bottom rand that what He says to you will be more than just about you and your family. It's going to be a bigger vision. It's going to be a bigger dream. And when we come together on that Sunday, we would love to just share notes, and by March say, okay, now we're ready. Let's see what God is going to do through us. Okay, let me pray for us.